This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the first look review at the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. We don't have the Note 20 not Ultra yet, so sorry, that one's not going to happen for a little while, but I've had this for about 5-6 days right now, and you'll have a full review from us around August 18th or so. But for right now, we're going to find out how good or not good this fancy pants phone is. We're going to look at it now. So undeniably, I think, other than the hump, the bump, the mega bump on the back, this is the prettiest phone that Samsung has made yet. I mean, the matte glass finish on the back is kind of satin sheen, very nice. It's a little less slippery too, but it doesn't show fingerprints. And then you've got the highlights of the Mystic Bronze here. It's like jewelry-like, this phone. But there is the bump. But the good thing about the bump is this is an Ultra, like the S20 Ultra, which means it has really good cameras inside, including periscope zoom. I'm going to talk about those cameras because they're one of my favorite things about the Note. Of course, we have the S Pen on board and reduced latency, which means it's even more responsive than ever. It's one of the nicest features of the Note if you are a pen person. So beyond that, is there a reason to be interested in the Note? Well, yes, there is, assuming that you can stand the high price tags here. The Note 20 Ultra is $1299 for the 128 gig model with 12 gigs of RAM, and there's a 512 gig model, which I believe is only available in Mystic Black, whereas for the base model, you have your choice of Mystic Bronze, which is what we have, Mystic White, and Mystic Black. Will vary by country, keep that in mind. The regular Note 20, not Ultra model, has a neat green color, and that one has a glastic back instead. So that means kind of hybrid glass, plastic, whatever. It's supposed to be durable. So if you drop your phone a lot, that might not be the worst thing, even if it's $1,000 for that base Note 20, and you feel like you should get more than plastic, glastic, whatever you want to call it. Speaking of durability, though, you probably want to put a case on this just to deal with the hump. In fact, you can see what it looks like with just a $20 Best Buy Insignia brand case, and it helps. It lays flat on the table, which is the annoyance there now, so you don't scratch your table or scratch the lens on it. But this is covered in Gorilla Glass Victus. Wow, fancy name, right? So they have their drop test videos, and you can see it's not just about being scratch resistance, which kind of several years ago reached the apex of what they could do with that, but now adding in drop resistance, shatter resistance. So they claim 2 meters, which is over 6 feet for those of you who speak imperial measurements instead, without cracking. And it's front and back, got Victus on it. So this is a phone you might not actually have to have a case on because of that. This is a review loaner from Samsung. We are not allowed to drop test it, so I can't tell you. Inside we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 Plus with 5G, both millimeter wave and sub-6, all the flavors thrown in there. Now, if you're outside the United States and some other countries, you get the Samsung Exynos 990, which is the same thing in the S20 and doesn't perform as well as the Snapdragon. My condolences. But here in the United States, we get the 865 Plus, the latest and the greatest. It's a fast processor. These flagship phones are faster than anybody's business. I don't know what you can do that is going to overtax these processors at this point. 12 gigs of RAM, low-power DDR5, that is plenty of RAM for multitasking in Android land. 128 gigs of storage might sound not like a lot for given the price of the phone, but then again, it does have a micro SD card slot compatible with cards up to 1 terabyte, so I'm not really too worried. And these days, honestly, other than putting my apps on and having an SD card to put my photos and my videos, I don't really need a lot of space anymore. We all stream stuff, right? So, if you compare this to the S20 Ultra, that's where this one starts to seem, I won't say a bargain, but a pretty good value. You get the faster CPU on board, you get the S Pen, you get a 6.9-inch display, which is up a little bit from the Note 10 Plus that was 6.8 inches, around the same resolution though. But you get a 120 Hz display, that's better than the Note 10 Plus. But compared to the S20 Ultra, besides that faster CPU, the S Pen Gorilla Glass Victus, you have almost the same camera setup as the Ultra for $150 less with better autofocus. And you can see some of the sample photos and some of the sample videos that I've taken. Apologies that these are not more exciting subjects, but this is still pandemic times and we don't live in the most scenic place here in the Dallas suburbs. But you've got laser autofocus in addition to the phase detection autofocus that the Ultra had. And those of you who are following those Ultra problems know that a lot of the problems around that phone were the autofocus not being fast enough to keep up. There were updates, but nothing really is going to help phase detection autofocus ever be that fast. We have the same 108 megapixel main sensor on board for the main wide camera. Hard to go wrong with that. It's a good sensor. And then we have the wide angle on this one, and we have a telephoto lens, which is not super high pixel rated like, say, the S20 Plus was. That one was 64 megapixels. This one is not so high, but it does 5x optical zoom. And in most cases, it does quite a good job. And we have space zoom here. So the S20 Ultra did 100x space zoom. This one does 50x. I'm fine with that. Let's face it, at 100x, pretty much it was a party trick. And unless you're going for the I'm the top of the Perv King meter for how far you can spy on little things. Anyway, and what it comes down to is 5x is good. It's optical zoom. It's very nice looking in most cases. Occasionally with flowers, it has a little issue, looking a little watercolory. But other than that, really good stuff. And 10x is still very usable. So this is kind of the camera that I always hoped the S20 Ultra would have been. Great range from your ultra wide to your very high resolution main to your very usable telephoto, which is great if you're doing portraits, if you're doing your pets, kids on the go, wildlife where you don't want to get too close and scare them away or have them bite you, depending on the kind of wildlife. Good stuff. So in the Pro Video mode, it's pretty cool. You've got a lot of settings. You can actually use the new Galaxy Buds Live as the microphone input for your video. You can choose which mic to use, front, omni, back. You get the idea. That's pretty nice too. And yes, there is 8K video recording at 24 frames per second. The only caveat there is pretty much no stabilization, so use a tripod. Other things to note on ours, which looks like an example certainly of a shipping model, there is no factory installed screen protector for those of you who care. The fingerprint scanner on this, I had nothing but a world of hurt with the S20 family of phones. I had to press the glass so hard, I don't know what it is, cold fingers, skinny fingers. This one works just fine. It's nice and fast. For those of you who are on AT&T in the United States, voice over LTE does work. Yay. And also, if you're coming from an older Note phone, the S Pen has moved to the left side, which is great for me and the other 10% of the world that are left-handed, but the rest of you right-handed people will probably grumble about that until you get used to it. Phone has stereo speakers, bottom firing, and earpiece, and oh my God, it's loud. It sounds pretty good. For once, I think the iPhone's finally getting a little bit of competition here. The display on this is bright. Max brightness is 1500 nits, which is the brightest yet for a phone. That's only in auto mode when you go in someplace super bright, like outdoors, like we're in Dallas, Texas, where it does get super bright. And I had no trouble seeing the screen under any lighting conditions outdoors. Yay that. So you have your vivid mode on the display and you have the natural mode. I do tend to use the natural mode because, well, when I take photographs, I want to get better representation of how the colors actually look on this. And also I watch painting videos and colors actually matter to be accurate. But there's vivid mode. I think it's a bit less over-the-top vivid than some older Samsung phones and maybe even than the regular Note 20 not Ultra, but I suspect that it's because it's tuned to be more accurate. Phone has a curved display. Like many of you, I'm kind of over the curved display. I like the flat display, which the regular Note 20 has, but that said, the curve's not that steep. I really didn't have accidental edge presses on this. Mostly I had accidental presses on the bottom. Go figure. The phone is IP68 water resistant. It has the usual NFC, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.0, and facial recognition also. Not the super secure kind, so, you know, if you work for the CIA, it won't be for you. You'll have to use a fingerprint scanner. There's a 4,500 milliamp battery inside. That's a big battery, yay. And it's also a very high resolution big flagship phone with a 120 hertz display. But, and speaking of that 120 hertz display, there's either adaptive mode, so it's not going to waste your frame rate and your refresh basically if it's 30 frames per second content or something like that. You can only use that in the low and middle resolution settings. If you want to run at max resolution, you're still stuck at 60 hertz, which Samsung did with the S20 line. Y1 Plus will happily let you go for broke on this and, you know, kill your battery life, but whatever, you can't do that here. Anyway, back to the battery, 4,500 milliamp, and so far I've been testing this 5-6 days, and it's pretty much a 5.5 hours, the 6-hour screen on time phone, which is pretty good. Now, I've been using it very heavily, and I'm going to use it for several more weeks. So in my final review, I'll give you the final judgment on that. But so far, it's looking pretty good. I've been using this on T-Mobile's 5G network, on AT&T's 5G and 4G LTE networks as well to test them. Supports fast charging. You get a 25-watt fast charger. It does not support 45-watt charging, the even faster fast charger, but that's okay. It does support Qi wireless charging at fast charging rate, which is 15 watts, so that certainly helps. So that's the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. I'm feeling very good about this phone. Last year's Note 10 release was kind of like meet your S10 plus an S Pen and not much else. But there's enough improvements here. The camera, the more durable Gorilla Glass design, the faster CPU, 120 hertz display. These things are very nice. Of course, the price tag is insanely high, and these are difficult times. But then, as a mind-boggling contrast, there is the Pixel 4a that I just reviewed, which is only $349, which, by the way, I think takes maybe even slightly better night mode pictures than this one. But otherwise, this one wins camera-wise. But anyway, I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see the full review of this later this month. And thumbs up if you like this vid.